Good morning. So in the today's class, we are going to revise the fourth and fifth chapter. So in the first periodic exam, that is, so nutrition in the plants, nutrition in the animals, and fiber to fabric, right? So we have studied three chapters for the first periodic exam. So now moving to the further chapters, that is up to we physical and chemical changes we have completed. But in today's class, I am going to revise the chapter 4th and 5th. Okay. The fourth chapter is heat and the fifth is acid, base and salt. Right. So in the heat chapter, what all things we have studied, that is by using or by the sense of a touch we can check the material which is hot and which is cold, right? Your skin is one of the sense organ, right? So when you touch the any like hot object, cold object, so it is all the things which are done by the sense organ, that is your skin, right? So, but based upon the touch, we cannot exactly say the quantity of a heat or the coldness, right? So, this much hotness it is or this much cold it is, right? So, only we can say yes, it is a hot and it is a cold, right? But the range or the we can say we cannot decide the quantity, right? So, for measuring the temperature, like the first part, the reliable measure of the hotness of the object is its temperature. Okay. So, hotness of the objects we are going to uh, measure in terms of temperature. Right. Temperature is measured by the device called as a thermometer. Right. So, for example, the first part they have given related to the clinical thermometer. So, have you seen the clinical thermometer? So, it is a thermometer which helps in measuring the body temperature. So, whenever you had the fever, you go visit to the doctors, right? So, he used to measure the temperature or the fever you have, right? So, you can see the figure 4.2, a clinical thermometer, right? It has the silver end that we called as a bulb, and you can see the yellow liquid in that thermometer that we called as a mercury. Okay. So, there is a flow of a mercury in the thermometer, right? So, based upon the movement of the mercury in the thermometer, we are going to decide what exact temperature it is, right? So, the mercury will move. Okay. So, the movement of the mercury or the flow of a mercury in a thermometer will decide the temperature, right? It is your bulb. Mercury has a silver structure additive of it, that is called the bulb, and while measuring the temperature of fever of your body, the doctor used to put the thermometer under the arm or under your tongue, right? So based upon the reading or the flow of a mercury will tell us the range of or the hotness or the fever in your body, right? So, clinical thermometer read the temperature from 35 to 42. Okay, so it has the range. Okay, there is a scale. So, it will start reading from the 35 degrees Celsius to 40 degrees Celsius. Okay, it has the range from 35 to 42. So, what is the normal body temperature? So the normal temperature of a human body is 37. Okay, the standard temperature, that is 37 degrees Celsius, right? So reading the thermometer, then so you can see the Paheli correct method of reading a clinical thermometer, right? So after placing under your tongue and under the arm, when your doctor used to check the temperature or the fever, so you can see the mercury movement or based upon the mercury line, that is yellow material inside the thermometer will tell you the where exactly you have the temperature, right? So it will stop at this point or whether it has stopped in this point, right? So next is related to your, so another thermometer you can see, that is laboratory thermometer, right? So laboratory thermometer used in the labs for measuring the temperature of other substance, right? If you are taking the temperature of your water or measuring the hotness of a water, how they are placed? So precautions would be taken while measuring the temperature by using the laboratory thermometer, right? So how they are placed? Should be kept upright, not tilt. Okay, so it should be kept upright as you can see the figure 4.5, right? Bulb should be surrounded by all sides by a substance which the temperature is to be measured. So this part is very important, right? So it should be placed properly or it should be surrounded by the things. Okay. So then only there is a movement of a mercury from this point to this end. Okay. So what is the range for the laboratory thermometer? So first is clinical thermometer designed to measure the temperature of a human body only, right? We use this clinical thermometer for measuring the temperature or the fever in the human body. So it cannot be used in the lab condition, or we cannot use this clinical thermometer for other uses, right? Then what is the next part? That is your laboratory thermometer. Okay. So what is the range? The range of a laboratory thermometer is generally -10 to 110 degrees Celsius. So as this clinical thermometer has 35 to 40, 42, and the -10, it will start the reading from -10 to 110. Okay. So clinical thermometer has the reading from -10 to 110. So one more word they have given, nick. What is the use of a nick? It's prevent the mercury level from falling on its own, right? If you have the reading at this point, so it will turn or bend like this. So that is the nick. Okay, or there is a stoppage. Or we can say the mercury will stop. Okay, and it will be stopped by this nick. Okay, there will be no further flow of mercury. So you can take the reading where the mercury has been stopped. There is a lot of concern over the use of a mercury. In a thermometers, mercury is a toxic substance and it is very difficult to dispose of if thermometer breaks. These days digital thermometers are available which do not use mercury. So basically your mercury is very dangerous. Okay, so it is harmful for the health. So whenever the thermometer gets break down accidentally, the what we call how to dispose it, as while disposing those thermometer, as the mercury is very harmful chemical which is present in that thermometer. So that's why we have nowadays that is digital thermometer available for measuring the temperature. So next part is transfer of a heat. How there is a transfer of a heat will takes place. Okay. The process by which heat is transferred from the hotter end to the colder end of an object is called conduction. You can see the figure 4.7, a flow of a heat through a metal strip, right? One side the candle is burning and an iron rod is there. So heat is transferring from the candle to the from candle at one end to the other end. So that flow of a heat from hot regions to cold, that is called conduction, right? Now what do you mean by the conductors and insulators? So conductors are the materials which allow the heat to transfer through them. Okay, materials which allow heat to pass through them easily are called conductors of the heat. So heat can flow through that material and we call them as a conductors. So which are the example you can see? That is all your metals like aluminium, iron, copper. Okay, so they can pass the heat. Whereas your insulators, they are not going to pass the heat from those objects. If I am taking a wooden, okay, duster, so you cannot pass the heat through it, right? So that we called as the insulator, or they are the poor conductors of heat and electricity, right? Like your utensil handles all are made from the plastic material. If the heat is getting transferred through that material, we cannot hold the vessels, right? So because of for holding purpose or to hold the hot objects, we have the plastic handles that are made from the insulators or the insulator materials, right? So whatever your plastics, wood, so all these are insulator of things. So the convection, this process continued till the, this mode of a heat transfer is called convection. So one more part, that is convection. So another transfer of a heat, that is convection. What happens? So in the water, how the heat will transfer. Okay, so you have the water, you are heating this water, the heat will transfer. Okay, but the cold water get mixes with the hot water. Okay, so there is a transfer of a heat from this part, that is from the hotter area, that is used flame to the colder regions, right? This is a heat transfer and that we call as a convection, right? So convection, what is the difference between conduction and convection? Convection is related to your liquid, okay, or the water. So how the heat is transferring in the water condition, right? And conduction, you can see in how the solid material the heat is getting transferred, right? The next part is sea breeze and the land breeze. So you can see the figure, that is 4.11, how the hot breeze, so breeze means wind, okay, so hot breeze or the hot wind getting transferred from land to, okay, so you can see the red arrow mark, okay, so hot wind or the hot breeze getting moving to the sea area and the cold air is getting move, or it is moving towards the land. But this is reverse process in case of the night time. So you can see the images day and night time, how the hot air and cold air mix or getting transferred, okay, from land to water bodies. So one more term they have given, that is radiation. The sun, the heat comes us by the another process called radiation. The transfer of a heat by radiation does not require any medium. Okay, so radiation means, so direct the rays, okay, so these rays are falling on the earth, okay, so like it cannot reach us, when we come out of the sun, we feel warm. How does the heat from the sun reaches us? It cannot reach us by conduction or convection, okay, so through the process of conduction and convection, we are not getting the sun rays. So with that is the term we are using the radiation. So direct radiation or the rays coming from the sun is directly falling on us or on the earth's surface, right? So it cannot reach us by conduction or convection as there is no medium such as air in the most part of the space between the earth and sun. For the sun, the heat comes us by another process called radiation, okay, so the sunlight comes to us through the radiation, or the rays will falling on us. The transfer of a heat by radiation does not require any medium. Okay, so there is no in between us. The direct rays are coming from the sun towards the us, right? That's why we feel the warmness or the hotness in the summer days, right? So now next, last part is which type of a cloth we are going to use during the winter and during the summer, right? Which type of a cloth? We usually refer cotton cloths in the summer and woolen cloths in the winter, as you have studied in the chapter fiber to fabric, right? So cotton materials will absorb the sweat, okay, whereas your dark, or we can see the dark material will absorb more heat as compared to the lighter. So if you are going to wear the black materials, or if you are going to use the dark cloths, it will absorb the more heat as compared to the light color cloths. So that's why we prefer light color cotton cloths during the summer, and the cotton cloth easily absorb the sweat which is released during the summer days, right? So keep in mind that dark color cloths absorb more heat as compared to the light color of cloths. Okay. The next part is acid, base and salt. So what do you mean by acid and bases, or how we are going to check the acidity or the basic content in the uh, substance? So which are sour, we are going to say it is acid, and which are bitter, we can say they are the basic in nature, right? And so based upon the test, we cannot directly decide which is acid and which is base, because all the things are not edible and we are not going to check by taste, right? So there is a presence of some other materials that we call indicators. So what is the use of indicators? So it will tell whether the substance is acidic or basic, right? So the first natural indicator we have studied is a litmus or a dye. Okay, dye means a color substance which we are going to extract or take from the plants called the lichen. Okay, so it is actually a purple color when we are mixed in a water. Okay, but it turns red when there is a acid condition, and it turns blue when there is a basic solution, right? So but nowadays it is available in the form of paper, right? So we can use directly the papers. You can see the figure 5.1, red and blue litmus you can see, right? Then turmeric. So almost many students have done this activity related to the turmeric, which is easily available in your home, right? So under acidic condition it is red, under basic, so under acidic condition it is yellow color only, but under basic condition it gives red color, right? So natural dyes, that natural indicator litmus, turmeric. Then third part you have studied about the China rose, right? So figure 5.3 you can see a China rose, how it is, right? It is also available very easily to you, right? So under acidic condition it gives pink color, and under basic condition it gives the green color, right? So you must know under acid condition which color it is giving, and under basic condition which color it is producing, right? Then what do you mean by the neutral solution? So neutral solutions are which are neither acidic or nor basic, right? So if you can see there is no change in the solution, right? Then you have studied about the neutralization. So three examples we have studied related to the natural indicators. Like natural means we are getting those things from the plant. Natural we use the term for the things which are getting from the plants, animals, right? Chemical means we are using artificial or the chemical things, right? So first part we have studied about the litmus, turmeric and the China rose. Three indicators we have studied related to the natural indicator, under acid and under basic condition which color they are giving, right? The last part they have given the about the neutralization. What do you mean by the neutralization? The reaction between acid and base is called neutralization, right? So after reacting of acid and base, it is producing salt and water. Okay. So what is the reaction? So acid, base, so they will react to form salt and water. Okay. So the overall reaction you can see. So example they have given related to hydrochloric acid. This is one of your acid they have taken, and the sodium hydroxide as a base. Sodium chloride is your salt, and lastly the water, right? So the salt which we are generally using, that is your NaCl, and water is H2O, right? Then last part is neutralization in everyday life. So where these things or the neutralization where you have seen, that is we have the problem related to acidity or the indigestion, where if the food has not digested completely, we used to take the acidity tablets, or we call the antacid, right? So whenever there is a formation of more acid in your stomach, we used to take the antacid or the base which will neutralize the effect of acid. Okay. Then ant bite is, or the ant is releasing the acid, that is formic acid. Okay. So we are neutralizing the effect of acid by rubbing sodium hydrogen carbonate or the baking soda, right? So on the surface of acid we are applying base to neutralize the effect or to have the neutralization reaction, right? Then soil treatment. So the soil should not be either acidic or basic. Okay. So proper maintaining of the soil is very important for the plant growth. Then factory waste also releases large amount of acid into the water body. So they have to be neutralized, or the acid content has to be reduced by applying base. Okay. So all these things we have covered in the fourth and fifth part, right? So once again go through these two chapters. Okay, then only you can understand. Try to make it possible that you should read your textbook regularly. Then only you can understand each and every part of your chapters, right? So hope you understand what the today's class. Thank you. And in the next class, we are going to revise the few more chapters. Okay. Thank you.